walking away from a sure thing to go to the next level. Two podcasting stories that will make you go, huh. Hey, good people. Welcome to Podcasting Next Level. I am glad you are here. Just to take a moment to understand who I am and what this is all about and why this show exists. I'm Dr. Brad Miller, retired pastor, turned into a podcaster, the creator of PodIndy.com, a premier one-day training event designed to be affordable and effective for independent podcasters who want to take your show, your life, your business to the next level. This show, Podcasting Next Level, is really my own take on the teachings of three people who I admire greatly. Cliff Ravenscraft, he's our keynote speaker at PodIndy.com. Dave Jackson, who's being presented at PodIndy.com from the School of Podcasting. And John D. Lee Dumas, who will be joining us by video at PodIndy.com from Entrepreneurs on Fire. You can actually grab a free download of the top tips from these three legends right now at PodIndy.com. And here's a little bit of something to think about to stick around towards the end of our episode today. Listen for the Easter egg somewhere near the end of our episode, and you'll find a way to get a discount on your ticket price. This is a limited edition podcast. It expires November 7th, 2026, on the date of PodIndy.com. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Episode number 2 of Podcasting the Next Level. Last time I asked you to name one belief that might be limiting your show, holding you back. And because today's episode is really about telling a story, really two stories, that are going to kind of test your belief system from a different angle. First story I want to tell you is about Cliff Ravenscraft, one of our keynote speaker at PodIndy.com. And really, I think it's a really powerful story. And it's a case study on what it really actually cost to go to the next level. See, Cliff didn't start out building a podcast to coach creators like he does now, and that's been part of his business for some time now. He had something that a lot of people would call security. His family ran an insurance agency created by his grandfather back in the 1930s. Multiple generations had built their lives around that business, and Cliff was next in line. The agency, the income, the identity, it was all basically handed to him. And Cliff, in his case, he walked away from all that on purpose to build something with absolutely no guarantee of working, an online business in podcasting at a time when almost nobody knew what podcasting even was. Now, I want you to notice something. This wasn't a story about a guy with nothing to lose and taking a wild swing at something like some young guy or something like that. This was a guy giving up on a known, stable, financially secure identity to go build an unknown one. And that's a different kind of a risk, It's a different risk than, I have nothing to lose, so why not try something? This is a risk where you do have something to lose. So here's the mindset lesson underneath that decision. The next level almost always requires releasing a known identity before a new, bigger identity can take root. You cannot fully become the next version of yourself, or you're still gripping the current version with both hands. I had to deal with some of that myself. A few years ago, I retired after 43 years as a pastor of local churches. Very secure life and lifestyle for myself. And one option when I retired was to go on and take what we call a retirement church, a smaller church that you can pastor in retirement. It was been a very easy thing for me to do, and kind of a natural progression that many pastors in my tradition do. However, about a month after I was retired officially, I was flagged for cancer, pretty serious, life-threatening cancer. I had to deal with that. But it also changed my mindset, and I realized that my calling, my new vision, as it were, was not to just continue basically doing what I had been doing, pastoring a church, a retirement church indeed, but still a church. but to lean into what my calling was, which was to serve people who had been waylaid in their life by cancer or some other adversity and needed some direction in order to live a full life to the end of their life. Because I saw a lot of people, kind of like myself, who kind of found themselves in the throes of some depression or some what I call the insanity phase, when you get a diagnosis and you don't know what to do next. And I found some ways to help people to navigate that and created what my main podcast, Cancer and Comedy, which is about leveraging humor for healing and hope. And I felt like I had something to say. And so I started a podcast based on what I had going for me, but it was a bit of taking a risk. I had my experience as a pastor, and I had a doctoral degree in transformational leadership, and I also had liked comedy, and I knew that laughter was good medicine, as the Bible says. So I leaned into my podcast, and that's how it was a changing, pivotal moment for me. What we're talking about here is for you. That's Cliff's story, and there's my story about how you had some security, but you moved on beyond that. Now, our conversation today is really about how the security here is about your mindset, about how your mindset needs to make a shift from whatever you've been doing to something doing where you are actually giving something back that is greater than yourself. So here's the question that these type of decisions force on all of us. Security and fulfillment are not the same thing. Cliff teaches that he had security, but he wasn't doing the work that he felt called to do or was made to do. So the idea here is, what are you optimizing in your life? Your security, or are you want to optimize, or you're optimizing your career? And these are all great things. But if you wanted to create a podcast, then the idea is, if you're going to be shifting your mindset towards what are you offering to the world? And let's be honest about it in yourself. There's no wrong answer here, but there is a true answer, and most of us haven't actually asked this question out loud. What is your calling to be in life? In Cliff's case, he became one of the leading authorities in podcasting, not because he had a map handed to him. He built the path that he was walking on. And that's a next level mindset we're talking about here in action. Accepting that clarity comes after you move, not before. The action makes the difference. If you're waiting to be completely clear and precise in your vision moving forward before you take the next step with your show, it's just not going to happen. You're going to be waiting for a long, long time, and it simply doesn't arrive in that order. In my case, I have now been a leading authority in the area of therapeutic humor. Speak at conferences about this, writing a book about this topic of therapeutic humor and how that's a part of the healing process. So here's your challenge for this episode. I want you to ask yourself, what's my version of that family insurance agency? What's my version of my cancer pivoting moment when I had to decide whether to go on to remain in ministry in a local church or to follow my new vision, my new calling? What's the safe, known thing in your life? What are you holding on to? A job, a format, a career, or whatever it is, a niche, an identity, a hobby. What are you holding on to that might kind of hold you back from what you really are being called to do? What your show can be about, or how your show can become your possibly new career. Now, you don't have to quit anything to do this today. All I'm asking you to do is to take these teachings and learnings we get from Cliff Ravenscraft, his experience as the podcast answer man, and also known sometimes as the mindset answer man, in my experiences in shifting my life, and think about this in your life and write it down. Make a note in your phone. Make an audio note, perhaps. You don't have to quit anything, but you do have to gain some clarity that there's a shift that can take place. What are you holding on to that's holding you back? So write it down next to the belief that you said we talked about in your last episode. Next time here on Podcasting Next Level. We're going to be talking about something that trips up almost every podcaster early on, and that's chasing the wrong number. And we're going to talk about how audience size is kind of the wrong scoreboard for us to look at. And what Cliff Ravenscraft teaches, and many of the people that I'm teaching you about who I've learned from, the idea is to find the right audience before you find the big audience, and how the right audience can really lead you to a growing audience. So here's a kind of a recap of what we've talked about today. My name is Dr. Brad Miller, and this show, Podcasting Next Level, is my take on the lessons that have been taught by Cliff Ravenscraft, who is our keynote presenter at podindy.com. It's also, we have episodes about the teachings from Dave Jackson from School of Podcasting, who's going to be a speaker at podindy.com, and from the teachings from John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneurs on Fire, who's going to be making a video presentation at podindy.com. It's all a part of my one-day event, which is an affordable time for podcasters to get together personally and online. We have a virtual live stream version of this, and in order to get some affordable, effective training to help the independent podcaster go to the next level. The event is November 7th, and that is also the day that this podcast ends. So I invite you to go to podindy.com. We've got a free download there of top tips from these three great podcasting legends. And that's so you can also find out about how to get registered for podindy.com. It's very affordable, but guess what? Just because you stuck around for the Easter egg, the coupon code word is PACER, P-A-C-E-R. That's going to give you a discount. So one more thing. If this episode landed with you in any way and it's helpful to you, I really would like to encourage you to share it with someone else in your life, particularly if they're a podcaster or a content creator, or anyone who's looking to take their business, their life, everything they're about to the next level. My name is Dr. Brad Miller from podcastingnextlevel.com. That's the podcast. And from podindy.com. We'll see you next time as we take your life, your business, and your podcast to the next level.